Hey, welcome to Magic. Today I'm here with Richie Maiorini, who has a special word entitled Leave Home. He is one of my few returning speakers, that is for right now. So I think tonight's going to be awesome, or today, or wherever you're watching, and whatever time it is. So I thank you for clicking on here. I think it was no mistake that you found us today, and it was no coincidence that you decided that this is where you need to spend your next 45 minutes approximately. So I thank you for clicking on here today. Just a reminder, there is merchandise up for sale. Our store page will be called Magic Live on You, and that store page will be up in not too long. Probably I'll give it say in a week. You can go on Facebook, type in that. It'll have all of our products. You can go on there, order, size, all that. So that'll be very good. And just letting people know, people ask where the money goes. It all comes back here, not me, but here to the broadcast. And 20% of it goes to my local church because they are the inspiration for all this, and then they're the motive. So thank you so much. Tonight's gonna be awesome. I'm just gonna say a quick word of prayer as we step into it, because you can never have too much prayer in your life. So, Lord, thank you for just letting us gather tonight, Lord, and letting us speak your word into some people's lives that maybe have heard of it or haven't. Maybe they've heard the story, maybe not, Lord. I thank you for letting me be your vessel, letting me speak exactly what you want me to speak. Lord, it is my blessing to be part of your blessing into their lives. We thank you. We love you. Let's have a good night. Amen.
Amen.
So, without further ado, if you wouldn't mind going for it.
Okay. So thank you for again having me.
Anytime.
So this message actually, I was talking to Aiden before we started. This message actually came to me in a very weird way. I was just woke up one morning, I was in bed, and I just kind of sat up and I just kind of felt like I didn't get like the verses specifically because I know the story. Some people don't. That's why we have some verses, but I know the story, and God used the story I'm going to be talking about today, which I'm pretty sure most of you will know, even if you aren't like hardcore Christian. You know the story of what I'm going to be saying today, and He used that story to give me like I would say I'm going to call it like an extended metaphor for what going home can be like when it comes to your relationship with God. So I'm going to go quickly through the story of Joseph, and I have a couple different sets of verses. I'm going to start with the first set of verses, which is in Genesis 37, and I'm going to read verses 28, and I'm going to read verse 36. So Genesis 37:28 says, "Then Midianite traders passed by, so the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit because they threw him into a pit. And then they lifted him back out and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt." And then verse 38 says, or 36, I'm sorry. "Now the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and a captain of the guard." So Joseph, was living a really good life. He was a son of Jacob, and then out of nowhere, basically, his brothers were like, "I'm jealous of how well you're treated by our father." So they were going to kill him, but then they decided not to kill him. So then they decided to sell him to someone who sold him to Egypt. So he was like sold multiple times getting to Egypt. And then continuing on, we're going to skip a couple different chapters. We're going to skip to Genesis 39, and we'll be reading verses 20 through 22. I'm going to get there as well. So that says, "Then Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined. And he was there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy. And he gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever they did there, it was his doing." So you're starting to see some shift here. You're starting to see from Joseph going from someone who's been beaten, almost killed, dropped into a well, like sold twice, became a slave, thrown in jail, and then the prisoner guard is like, this person needs some power. So they kind of gave him a little bit of power in the prison, but it's not like a lot. I would say overall Joseph still has more negatives and positive when it comes to this. But
Yeah.
we have one more set of verses, and we're going to go a couple even more chapters down, 2 more chapters in, Genesis 41, and then verses 41 through 44. So let me get there as well.
Oh, by the way, if y'all are watching at home, you can feel free to take notes on this. In fact, studies have shown that you interpret things better if you do write them down. So maybe you should take some notes. I have a notepad over there that I'm going to write a lot of this stuff down afterwards because I learned just as much from listening to my speakers speak as you do.
Mm-hmm. So Genesis 41, 41 through 44 says, "And Pharaoh said to Joseph, 'See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt.' Then Pharaoh took his signet ring," which was very important. If you had a signet ring, it meant power, "and put it on Joseph's hand. And he clothed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. And he had him ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried out before him, 'Bow the knee.' So he set him all over the land of Egypt. Pharaoh also said to Joseph, 'I am Pharaoh, and without your consent no man may lift his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt.'" So now we see a complete 180. This is like Joseph got almost killed, sold, thrown into a pit, just beat up, became a slave, was put in prison, got a little bit of power in the prison, didn't get executed, met Pharaoh, interpreted his dream. It happened so quickly, and then he just became basically ruler of Egypt. Pharaoh was like the title, like everyone thought Pharaoh, but Joseph almost had more power than Pharaoh did. And that all happened because Joseph, not his choice, but he left home. He left home and had to go through all these things to get to this point where he has not like this power in Egypt. But the thing about us is that we're not going to just be, some of us grew up in church and some of us have more of an influence. Me personally, I grew up in church. I started church when I was like 11, 10. And then at one point, we stopped going as much, and it was my choice to go to youth, and it was my choice to go to my church on Sundays now. Some people don't have the choice as like kids and growing up in the teenage years, but that choice to leave your home and to go do things is up to you. And then God started speaking to me all the things I'm about to share with you that connect and kind of are an extended metaphor for when you leave home and what you have to do. So let me get to my notes real quick. So basically what I have about the message about Joseph is Joseph was getting kicked out and beat up and thrown out by his brothers. And that represents the separation we need to have from the world. Like we can't just be like, well, we're Christian and then like be part of the world. And I was talking to someone earlier about like, I'm doing this today. And I was like, said it. And after I said, I was like, I'm preaching to myself too, because I struggle with this. Just like I would say almost all Christians struggle with being completely separated from the world. And no one is ever going to be completely separated because we're not perfect. So that separation he had from his brothers represents that separation. And then Joseph getting taken out and eventually becoming Pharaoh's right-hand man shows that even the most horrible of circumstances can have the best outcome over time. And that could be a whole message in and of itself, but then God gave me more after that. And this is when it kind of turns from like the story of Joseph to just like an extended metaphor. And you guys will know what I mean soon.
Yeah.
So sometimes like Joseph, we need to leave home to go to different places. So I just picture me leaving my house and just feeling like God being like, okay, let's go on a road trip. We're just going to go around. We're going to find jobs. We're going to work sometimes, but we're going to have enough money to just leave my house. And God gave me 3 different places we can go to when we leave home. And I kind of going to do them out of order. But the first one of the ones God gave me was when you go to work. So in real life, obviously you go to work, you get money, it helps you need to have a job unless you're like a kid. You need to have some sort of income to be able to live because you need food, water, whatever. But in this situation, work actually represents in this metaphor the prayer, reading, and serving of being a Christian that we need to have the relationship with God. It represents the things we need to do. And I'm not going to sit back here and say, yes, a lot of it's fun. A lot of it is, but some of it is work. And at the end of the day, you're going to be satisfied. Just like when you go to work and you get home and you get that paycheck, you're going to be like, oh, I did that. I got money. Sometimes it is work. like sometimes like when you go to church and serve, or when you like when it's like 10:45 and you're ready to go to bed, but you like I need to read still. Like this is when I
Yeah.
usually read. Little things like that where it's not like the most like in your earthly mind the most favorable thing you can do in that moment, but
It's rewarding.
it is rewarding because you get that money. So that's like the first thing God gave me to share, because like that work, like we get this money, and like even like in real life with the real work you make, like if I go to my job, I work at Twisty Treat. You want to come, it's 119. But if you see me there, I'll give you a little, like if you wear a magic sweater or sweatshirt or whatever, I'll be like, I know you, so buy some. So
Hey.
job. But um, when I go to work and I get paid, some of that actual work I do goes to God too, because I try to give my 10%. Sometimes I forget, and it's like a Wednesday or Thursday, and I'm like, oh, I got to do that. Sometimes I do it right on Sunday when I like I'm supposed, like not when you're not supposed to, you don't have to do it on Sunday, but when I regularly do it was on Sundays. But that also goes to the Lord, just like the other work I'm talking about goes to the Lord. And like I said, a lot of it's fun. Sometimes I go to bed and I go to bed at a decent time and I'm ready to read. I'm excited to read. Right now, me and my girlfriend Haley, we read through Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. We're on Joshua now, and we're reading Joshua and the Gospels and some Psalms at the same time. So it's not just Old Testament over and over again, but we're making a little plan and we're just reading every day. Or if we miss a day, that's okay. But little things like that are fun and they are rewarding, and it's a nice opportunity to build yourself up in God and in other people. So
Awesome.
after work, after you get work and you get money and you go on that road trip, you don't have a house to stay at. Just like when you leave to go, like, I'm trying to get the words in my head. When you leave the world is comfortable. Just like my house right now is comfortable. If I decide to go on a road trip, I'm gonna have to find places to stay that aren't going to be as comfortable as sleeping in my own bed. But the world might be comfortable, but it's not right. So when I go on that road trip and I'm leaving and I need to find a place to stay, these are where the next two things that God gave me when you leave home that you could do in. So the first one is a hotel. And this is the best one. When you go to hotels, we go to a place in real life. We go to a place and we pay someone money for them to take care of us. We pay for a place where we get soap, we get shampoo, we get conditioner, we get complimentary breakfast sometimes, we get a bed, we get sheets, we get a window, we get AC, we get pillows, we get a TV, we get all this stuff because we paid money to go there. And we paid not just a little bit. Some hotels sometimes cost a lot. So
Oh
you
yeah.
go, you spend the money you worked for to go to a place and get a reward, get that comfortable place to stay. And that represents the way we need to sacrifice to God. We need to give all that like money we work for him to take care of us. Like we sacrifice to God, we give him that money, we give him that income, we give him that work. Because if we didn't work as hard, we're not going to be able to stay in as good of a hotel when we go out and we need to be not comfortable. We need to go out and do find a place. The more we spend, the more comfortable we're going to be when we close our head in at night. And like, and God is saying this to me. That says, I don't even know exactly where it says in the Bible, but the enemy, the devil, is in the Bible. It says that he lives in the night more than he lives in the day. So
Yeah.
the night is when he's more powerful. The night is when, so that's when we need to go. Okay, we're going to find some rest. Where are we going to go? Are we going to go back into the world? Are we going to go back into our house, be comfortable? Are we going to go into a hotel? Are we going to spend more money that we worked for? Are we going to work more so we can stay in a more comfortable place outside of the world? But there's one more place that you could stay at. And it's funny because my mom and my stepdad were talking about doing a road trip where you only stay at this place. And in real life, I'm not saying you can't stay in this place. But for my example, the last place is a motel. And when I think of a motel, I think of like a really, like you go there, you spend $10, you get a bed and maybe a TV.
You
And
get
maybe
a crappy room. Yeah, they're not nice.
they're not good. That some motels are called motels, but are pretty nice. But in my example, I want you guys to picture the worst room you could spend for, but for the cheapest price. And when we go to motels in real life, we decide, we're making that choice to keep some of our money, to keep some of that what we worked for, to have a lesser experience. It's like if I still work the same amount of hours and instead of staying at a nice hotel for God and just like getting that comfortable experience outside of the world, I'm deciding to stay at a motel because I want to keep my money. It's my money. What I don't want to give them to the hotel.
Yeah.
So this represents when we decide not to give everything we have to the Lord and we don't have from the Lord exactly what we should. So again, like I said, I preach into myself. When I preach, I still get that same like, oh, I need to work on that feeling, even though I'm saying the words. It's I decide to stay at a motel sometime. I decide to go to a lesser place, even though I have the money to go over here, even though I have the time to do this work to get here. I don't work as much, so I have to stay at a motel. Or I decide to keep some money I work for, so I decide to stay at a motel and I have some money on the side. Both those things can lead you to in the Christian walk. Okay, I'm not going to stay home because I know I'm not supposed to be in the earth, but I'm just going to go to a motel because it's more comfortable for me there. I'm spending less of my money. I'm closer to the world. I'm more comfortable there than going to a nice hotel and like spending all my money. I have to work more. Like
Yeah.
that feeling hits all of us, and we all go through phases like Christians where we don't want to work. We don't want to do that work, and that's normal. The most devout Christian is going to go through phases where they're like, I don't want to work. I don't want to pray. I feel like really don't really feel like reading. Like I really don't feel like going like to church. Like that happens. We sometimes become discouraged.
Yeah.
That's a way the enemy hits us. And I'm not saying, oh, if you're going through that right now, then you need to fix it right now. Prayer and supplication and working on things will fix it. But if you're going through it, then just know that this message is for you. Like that feeling of, well, I'm not going to work as hard. Well, you're going to be staying in a motel then, and that's how it works. And it's sad, and there's no savings. Like you don't really, there's not like,
Yeah.
like there obviously, if you're a 50-year Christian, you're a senior Christian, it's going to come. The work is going to become easier to you. That doesn't mean that you stop working and I have 1,000 religious dollars saved up, so I can stay at a hotel until I die. Like that's not how it works. It's null and void the next day. Each day is new, and God's reminding me of the verse, and it's about love, but it says God's love is renewed every day. That means he's going to want that love back from you every day. It's not like, well, I prayed for 7 hours today, so I'm supposed to pray an hour a day for a week. So if I pray 7 hours on Sunday, I don't need to pray Monday through Saturday. No, good job, you prayed 7 hours, but God still wants you to pray every day because it's renewed every day. That hotel cost is going to be renewed every day. Your account is going to be renewed every day. So try to get as much work in so you can spend more on a better hotel every night. Like every night you can do it, because every morning when you wake up, you're going to wake up and be like, well, it's another day. It's a new day. I don't have savings. And you could be a 2-day-old Christian or a 20-year-old Christian, and it's still going to be the same. Like even if your work is like, say you're a 2-day-old Christian and your work for that day that God needs you to do is, okay, I'm starting this, I'm just new to Christianity, Devo. What's the gospel mean? What does having a relationship with God mean? And a little bit of prayer. That's what God needs that Christian to do.
Yeah.
But as you grow in Christianity, that work is going to become, okay, now I'm trying to analyze God's word. And that's okay. That's a good thing to do, is being able to read it again, read the verses again, go through more devos specifically made for you. If you're dealing with something, find a devo that's for you. Find something that challenges you. For that 2-day-old Christian, understanding the gospel and understanding that Jesus died and rose 3 days later, that's what's challenging them. That's what's hard. Like they're learning, growing in that. But if you are a 20-year-old Christian and you wake up and I'm going to read the story of Easter again, and you do that every day for 20 years, what are you learning? You're not challenging yourself. You can
Not
probably
working.
20 years memorize it, like, and know the whole Luke Easter story. And that's a good thing, but you also need to keep growing, and keep changing your praise, and keep changing your like. And it's not a level of Christianity, but it's more maturity in that Christianity is what I'm trying to say. So basically, overall, what I'm trying to say is that when you leave your house, and the house means the world, you need to work, you need to make money so you can stay in a hotel, which is a closer relationship with God, sacrificing more of your money to go to see God, more of your money.
Yeah.
And then instead of staying at a motel where you either don't work enough to stay at a hotel or you decide to be greedy and keep some of that money you made. And that all kind of relates to Joseph, because when Joseph got kicked out and was beat up, he constantly was just, okay, God, okay, God, okay, God, I'm going through this. And at the end, look what happened. Look what he was able to do. Look what he was able to accomplish.
Yeah.
And that's really all I have. If there's questions, I'm willing to answer. I'm not
Oh,
questions.
I do have some.
There's questions for you.
So I have a literal question.
Yeah.
So I liked the analogy of hotel and motel and home, the comfort level. I like that analogy. Would you say, though, in the literal sense, that you don't reap unless you go out of your comfort zone? Because I liked how you said, you pay the extra money to get that comfort, but that's a good figurative analogy, but not to be confused with the analogy in real life. If you go out of your comfort zone, you reap more.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that that's a great analogy. Because I can really see how, yeah, the more money you put in, the nicer of the more comfortable you are in God. But if we're talking like reality thing, I don't want people who watch this to get confused. If we're talking about reality, um, you don't want to always stay in your comfort zone. Because as you're saying towards the end, Joseph had, he had faith as he was forced to leave his home and go with it. Joseph was out of his comfort zone because his comfort zone is back with his father and brothers. Well, he's outside of his comfort zone now, so now he has to adjust. But would you say that you reap more outside of your comfort zone in the literal sense than in it? You know what I mean?
And 100%, yes. And the one thing God was like, God doesn't, when I say God's like to you guys at home, when I say God, like it was telling me, I really don't hear God's voice. I just have like just a feeling that I need to say something. I wish I never really heard his voice clearly, but that's what I mean. So like I know some people get confused when I go, well, I heard God was telling me. I don't really hear like a voice, and if I did, I would let you guys know. I'd probably jump out of the seat and run around. But in reality, yes, comfort zone. When you leave that comfort zone, God not only um like provides you with more reward, provides you with more satisfaction in what you're doing. But say, like for me, for an example, a real world example of something I did that was out of my comfort zone. A couple of weeks back, I started making phone calls to my youth at my local church. I was really scared the first time. By the end of the first day, that comfort zone, that barrier is just the barrier. Like I don't really
Yeah.
see it as zones, because once you break that comfort barrier, God's going to allow you to be comfortable in that. So it's not the thing of, well, once you're out of your comfort, like you're not going to be uncomfortable. That's the thing, is once you get into that place where you think you're going to be uncomfortable, God's going to keep you from being comforted. And when you, like in my example, when you leave your house, that comfort barrier that you're breaking when you just like walk out the door is going to be God. Like, you're going to be comfortable. You're going to be fine. You might be a little bit nervous. You might be a little bit like, this is a new place. I'm in Wyoming. I was just in Florida. How did I get to Wyoming? Like you're gonna be like, where am I? But God's gonna allow you to have comfort in that. And then those hotels for us is like, how much are you doing out there can lead you to a more comfortable place when you rest your head at night, when you get to bed at night. And not physically go to bed, but I mean like, and like that, just the reward is having more of a better place. And it comes with it doesn't just have to be with hotels. It can be with, well, if you work more, you can get better food, you can get better clothing, you can get better. And this all sounds like worldly stuff, but I'm just using it as an example. Like the more you work, the more God's going to provide, in the long run.
My other question is, so what would you classify as a religious comfort zone? You know, because like when I think of a comfort zone, I'm talking spiritually. I think mostly as the way people worship, or if they worship. That's a big one, really. There are people who, all right, comment down below. When you sit in a church, this is for the people watching. What do you think the percent of worshipers is? I don't mean, I'm talking worshipers. Because I'll tell you what, I have seen 6 different churches, right? Let's see, I can easily divide them in half. 3 of them were 50-50 at least, right? The other 3, 0% worshipers. So, you know, there's always the range, but I look at worshiping as stepping out of your comfort zone the first time. And once you do it, you know, you're in a new comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
But what are some spiritual comfort zones that you notice or that you classify?
Well, it's getting comfortable with the fact that you are, like for new Christians, it's getting comfortable with the fact that you are a Christian and what that means. Like that's like the very, very first thing is like, wow, what does this mean for me?
Yeah.
Like, what do I need to sacrifice to be a Christian? That's the first thing. And then, like you said, worship, reading, prayer. Sometimes when you first start being a Christian, just the idea of going into a room and talking to yourself,
It's really weird the first time.
it's weird. Like you go into your room and you sit here and you're like, God, thank you for being here. Like you're just like, and then by the time you're,
Uh,
and then by the time you walk into your room and you're just like you have a Bible, you have a notebook, you have everything ready, and you just pray. It doesn't have to be out loud, and it doesn't have to be with you. Like it's, I feel like, and it's a misnomer that prayer has to be hands folded, eyes closed, silent, peaceful. No, when I pray, sometimes my eyes are open when I pray by myself, and it doesn't matter. Those of you home that think your eyes have to be closed, don't think that anymore. Because that's one thing my old youth, like my pastor's old wife, which was like my old church, told me one time and blew my mind. Your eyes don't have to be closed when you pray. And I was like, what? So I pray in the car. I pray walking. I pray at school in the middle of the day. Like I don't have to, okay, I'm ready to pray. I'm gonna be late to class, but I'm gonna spend 30 minutes with my hands folded. And that's a way to pray for sure. If you're comfortable like that, and that's how you want to pray when you go into your room, for sure. But for me, it's a thing of I'm moving. I'm moving. So sometimes I always start my prayers now with thanks. So when I start thanking God, I just am like, "Ooh, God, I thank you for today. I thank you for the opportunity to give the people in my life that you've given to me. I thank you for my church. I thank you for just my dog. I look around my room and like, I thank you for my dogs. I thank you for my house. I thank you for my schoolwork. I thank you for my friends. I thank you for, and then that prayer becomes not scary because you know that he's there and you know he's helping you. And praise, a good way to get out of that comfort zone for praise is praise at home by yourself. Wait for your time you're home alone. Crank up the volume on that worship music. And trust me, if you go into that with that normal level of praise that you have, you're going to end that praise session jumping. You're going to end it screaming. And you're going to end it getting to the point where when you hear it at church, you can't help but jump. You can't help. It's not like I'm going up there, I'm going to do it. No, you're walking up there and you're ready. And sometimes, again, this is another misnomer I feel like some people have, is praise always has to be highly energized.
Nah.
Sometimes my best praise moments is when I'm standing completely still. I'm not clapping. I'm not moving. My eyes are closed or open. I'm staring up. I'm singing. And when I get emotional and when I get that feeling in God, just that's overwhelming Holy Spirit, it's being split more for sure now. But at one point it was almost 100%. It was almost 100%. I would just start crying and I would just have that crying feeling. I'm sorry for my dogs, but it's okay.
That's all right. He's happy. Talking about Jesus. He's happy.
Yeah. There's another one joining. But it definitely can split, and but I feel like some people think that it has to be jumping up. It has to be running around. It doesn't have to be. If you start praising God and you feel like you just need to get on your knees, you need to get on your and just cry out to God. Just be peaceful in God. That's praise too. So don't let me or anyone make you think that praise has to be running around. Woodford, come here. Come here.
Here.
You want to meet the people?
Disclaimer for the whole audience here. Praise is whatever you want it to be.
Exactly.
Whatever you want it to be. But, big buts, don't get too comfortable with it.
Exactly.
Whatever you want it to be, but don't let it be habit. So, here's what I mean by this. I've been in church since I was born. I didn't get into it till I was 11. Then I bounced out of it at 12 because of call it history, Aiden's past thing. Got back into it nearing 13. About a whole year I was out of it. Got into it. See, here's the problem. I got into my old worship habits. And how many know that when you get into an old habit, something's wrong?
I used to just be a clapper. I was scared to raise my hand forever.
I was clapper, or I would do this. Which, how many know? This is not criticizing you if you do this, but when you're someone who thinks they're worshiping and you just do this because you're doing it because everyone else does it, right? Like there are some that do that.
That's their first step, is going from just clapping or their hands being down to like, okay, I'm going to be up here now. God, this is my first comfort zone. I feel a little like another thing about praise. If this is where God needs you to be, you're going to feel the same amount of praise if that's where you truly feel like God wants you to be, than someone who's literally sprinting across the church. Like if this, just like that, just that little, if this is where you're comfortable right now, this is where you feel comfortable praising, because this is your hands down at your sides, and this is the next step, and eventually it can become hands straight up. Or some people just think that this is more comfortable, or like this, like it doesn't matter, like it doesn't, like what you just said in the mic.
But the point I want to get across is you go from this to this, and then I stopped. I plateaued. Did I feel it? Not really, because I went like, oh, he made a step. Oh wait, no, he flatlined. You should always be climbing. Now, let's say you climb, you get to this. Yeah, like you said, this is like where you feel it, right? That's fine. But for me, and for a lot of people, they get to something like this, and then their body's like can't move to the next step. Like they're just stuck there, whether they feel it there or not. And then sometimes that's when you make a habit out of that. And now you have the habit of this is what I do during worship. But here's the problem with habits. Let me use this as an analogy. God created angels, right? Angels were made to worship. But God created you because you weren't made to worship. You choose to. Choice is, my pastor spoke on this. So Pastor Steve, if you're watching this, I'm going to borrow this if you don't mind. Praise means way more when it's voluntary than when it's gifted. So when you're lifting your hands and you're praising out of habit, it does not mean as much as when you're praising because you want to. You know what I mean? I know people who praise out of habit, and I can tell you that they don't feel the spirit move when they do, but I do know some that their praising is always different. And you know what? That's fine. In fact, I think my praising is always different. There are sometimes I'm jumping up and down. There's sometimes that I'm not. There's sometimes that I'm pacing around like maniac. I closed my eyes once for worship. I opened it back up when I was done, and I was facing the audience, not facing the stage. You know, everyone has their own tactics and they change. But when you're doing the same thing every time, you're not feeling it because you made praise into a habit. No longer does it have that meaning. Praise only has a meaning when it's voluntary.
Mm-hmm. And
So,
sometimes you go into church, and you like go into church, and you're just like, maybe you had a long week, maybe you are kind of like, I don't feel amazing, I have a little bit of a headache. You don't feel perfect, so you go into church with that like notion of like, well, when I'm praised, I'm just gonna do what I normally do. I'm just gonna feel it out. Those are the days when I end up praising. I'm not gonna use the word the best. When I end up praising very like
Very hard, yeah.
it was like when you go there and you're like, and then you like kind of start like, yay, and then you like go from like that to like you like go,
Dive in.
feel like yeah, it's just it's sometimes you're gonna have just days where you're not feeling either the songs or just, and that's okay, like that's okay too, like you're able to grow in that, you're able to get better and have less and less and less. And sometimes even me or even Aiden, we're gonna go to church and we're gonna have days where we're just like, not that we're not feeling the songs, but we're just not, the praise isn't, we're just
Not
having
tickling the bone like it normally does. But those are always the days when you need it the most, is when the songs aren't tickling you there and they're not getting to you. That's when you need it the most. I have a friend that every once in a while he's like, bro, I don't want to go. Because of mostly because of like drama issues. Because there could be drama in church. There shouldn't be. There really shouldn't be. But some people like the drama and they make drama. But he'll be like, I don't feel right. I shouldn't. And I was like, well, that you don't feel right? So then you're definitely going. Because if you don't feel right, you need to get in. I had COVID in December. Let me tell you about having COVID. The worst part is not being able to go nowhere. I went nowhere for 3 weeks. I got cleared. I go to church. From not being in church for 3 weeks, from not putting myself in there, watching online is not the same thing. From not putting yourself in there, when you need it the most, pulls you away. I get back in there. I kid you not, I walk into service, shaking a little bit. Just shaking a little bit. Why? Because my body needed it so bad to the point where it was like, breaking down like a dehydrated man who needs water. In fact, I was still doing magic while I had COVID, which was funny because my voice was all hoarse, but no one really could tell. But I get back to church and I'm like, oh, I needed this. It's like pouring water on me after I shriveled up. So the days when you feel like you don't need it are the days you need it the most.
For sure. That's 100% true.
Oh yeah. But I can't quite think of any more to hit on that topic because I think you covered leaving bringing how do I say that? You covered leaving home and finding comfort. Great. That's something people are afraid of, is stepping out of their comfort zone to find a new comfort zone, or to go where God wants them, even if it is not their comfort zone. That's the other thing too, like missions, really. That's a big one, like missions. You're going out of your comfort zone, stepping into an unknown place, whether it be the neighborhood next door or the African savannah, or I don't know, the cities of Spain. Doesn't matter what it is, You're going out of your comfort zone only for God to put you in a new comfort zone and bless you, and you bless others while you're there. So, that's a really win-win right there. But I think you covered that really well, stepping out of your comfort zone to find the new comfort zone. And then I love how you applied work. You do need to put in work to get the best comfort zone you can, because nothing comes easy. If you think something's going to be handed to you on a silver platter, my dad always says this, you're wrong. Nothing in this world is going to just be handed to you on a silver platter for you to take. You got to take it yourself. Nothing's going to be given you. So I think you covered everything really, really well. I applaud.
Well, I applaud you for just allowing me to be here in the first place.
And I thank you so much for being on tonight. I thank everyone for watching. Unfortunately, we didn't do an altar call tonight. I just didn't feel like, that kind of spirit was moving into that. But thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for Richie. Also, if you guys saw last week's video, then you know that every week I was going to be giving out a question leading up to my giveaway. Richie, I don't know if you saw that, but we're doing a merch giveaway at the end of the couple sessions.
Am I the first person to go twice?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I think I should get a discount. I think that should be the question, is how big of a discount I should get on the merch store.
That's a great
You
question.
better be putting 100% right now, because that's what I would put.
I will delete your comment. No, sorry. how much of a discount from 1 to 50? You know, and y'all be reasonable.
Put 50. Don't be reasonable.
I
You put 50, I will definitely buy something from the merch store. So,
can't pick from them if they all put 50. They gotta put like how about this? I'm thinking of a discount in my head. Whoever gets closest.
I think I know your number, but I'm not even gonna say it because it's up to them.
Oh, I'll tell you when we're done with this.
Okay.
But thank you everyone for watching. Thanks for joining me. I hope everyone has an absolutely magical day. I'm Richie. I'm sure you'll be back in April because I already have March booked out. So I think you'll be here in April.
April's so far away. Feels like I'll
Yeah.
miss you guys, you viewers at home that I hadn't even really known. But
We
I
haven't
mean,
met yet.
if you want more Richie, then I can maybe start a little thing on my own. Maybe like
Ooh.
a little something. I don't know. If there's enough interest on the
I'll
video.
watch it.
That's second question.
Comments it.
Interested.
Yeah. If you want a separate Richie's thing, go ahead and subscribe.
Yeah, sure.
Subscribe, leave a like. You don't have to turn on notifications, but you might want to if you like this enough. But anyway, thank you. So
Thank you guys.
thank you guys for watching. See y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.